One of the first videos I made on this channel was a brief story of how Xerox failed. It mainly centered around how they invented the concept of a personal computer, but simply gave the idea away to Apple and Steve Jobs, and later Microsoft. It talked about how PARC invented the future and failed to convince Xerox management to commercialize what they had. But that's not the complete story. Xerox did eventually try to commercialize its technology. Although they were the earliest innovators of the personal computer, they were not the first ones to commercialize it. Despite this, they did eventually enter the PC market, quite early in fact. In the early stages of the 80s, they still had time to make up ground and claim a huge slice of market share in the PC industry. Yet knowing this, we all know that today we can't buy a Xerox computer. So what happened? This is the story of how Xerox actually tried selling computers and still failed. Xerox senior management first became interested in the computer market in the 1960s, when revenues from its printer business grew to a very profitable $1 billion plus annually. Xerox's visionary chairman, Joe Wilson, was determined to see this kind of growth continue. The computer, with its potential for rapid digital handling of information, which copiers handled optically, was a logical candidate for expansion. In 1968, after years of active searching, Xerox purchased a small California-based computer company that served engineering and scientific customers. Shortly thereafter, a Xerox Center for Computer Research, located in Palo Alto, was created. It would be known as Xerox PARC. The first idea for a computer was proposed by a Xerox scientist called Butler Lamson. The idea was for a multi-purpose, easy-to-use computer with a graphical user interface. No small feat, given that at the time, computers were the size of rooms and very unintuitive. Few people at the time could truly imagine that one day computers would be small enough to fit on a desk and that the masses would use them as their personal machines. The computer the team at PARC ended up building was the Xerox Alto, the computer that laid the foundation for the modern computing world. The Xerox Alto was a computer designed to support a graphical user interface-based operating system in the year 1973, a full decade before the first mass-market GUI-based computers would be released. Initially, Xerox built 30 Altos, which were well received by employees ranging from scientists to secretaries. It was intuitive to use and easy to learn. The PARC team undertook efforts to try and bring the Alto to market, but most of their efforts were stopped before they reached senior management. Although by 1979, nearly 1,000 Ethernet-linked Altos had been put into operation at Xerox and another 500 at collaborating universities and government offices, it was never commercialized.
Hello, I am Macintosh. It sure is great to get out of that bag. And accustomed as I am to...
In 1977, 3 personal computers, including the Apple II, were launched. They were all great successes and began the personal computing revolution. As 1979 came around, it became quite clear that there was a significant market for personal computers. While Xerox could have been the first to capitalize on this market as early as 1973, they now found themselves having to play catch-up to the industry leaders. So in 1979, in an effort to get a piece of the growing PC market, Xerox ran a commercial for a computer. But it wasn't the Alto. Instead, it was the Xerox Star. Much of the design of the Xerox Star was borrowed from the Alto. Its development began in 1977. The concept behind the machine was an integrated document preparation system centered on laser printing technology and targeted at large corporations. When the Star launched in 1981, it cost about $75,000 for a basic system and $16,000 per additional workstation. The Xerox Star was not originally meant to be a standalone computer, but to be part of an integrated Xerox personal office system that also connected to other workstations and network services via Ethernet. Although a single unit sold for $16,000, a typical office would need to buy at least 2 or 3 machines, along with a file server and a name or print server. Spending $50,000 to $100,000 for a complete installation was not an easy sale. While the Star incorporated many of the groundbreaking innovations introduced by the Alto, it lacked crucial features like spreadsheet software and compatibility with other computer systems. The programming language it used was also kept private, which stifled the ability of any potential third-party software developers creating applications for the machine. As a result, only 25,000 Xerox Stars were ever sold, leading many to consider it a commercial failure. Many people have posited a few ideas in regards to why Xerox failed to capitalize on the personal computing industry. Some attribute its failure to its very bureaucratic corporate structure. The team at Palo Alto were about 4 levels removed from Xerox's top executives, so many of their ideas and suggestions never made it to the top of the command chain, and when they were able to reach the top, the executives were not interested. They saw the Alto as nothing more than an electronic toy. Most of the executives were old printer industry veterans who couldn't conceptualize a Xerox that did nothing other than sell printers. When it came to the Star, the higher-ups didn't give the computer enough support to make it a commercial success. For example, the most technically savvy sales personnel at Xerox were paid large commissions on leases of laser printer equipment. In comparison, the commissions that were paid out per sale of a Star machine were much less. This meant that all the best sales and marketing people at Xerox were more incentivized to work on selling printers instead of the Xerox Star. In addition to this, the computer, much like its predecessor, the Alto, was ahead of its time. Very few people other than its creators knew just how capable of a machine it was. For most, it appeared to be a very expensive workstation.
I was so blinded by the first thing they showed me, which was the graphical user interface. I thought it was the best thing I'd ever seen in my life.
Members of the Apple Lisa engineering team saw a presentation of the Xerox Star in early 1981 and returned to Cupertino, where they converted their desktop manager to an icon-based interface modeled on the Star. Several members of PARC were also recruited to Microsoft, where they were instrumental in the creation of Microsoft Word and the Windows operating system. Many have felt that Xerox innovations were plagiarized by Apple, Microsoft, and others, in particular the GUI. In truth, many patent disclosures were submitted for the innovations made by Xerox PARC. However, at the time, the 1975 Xerox Consent Decree, a Federal Trade Commission antitrust action, placed restrictions on what the firm was able to patent. Patents on software, particularly those relating to user interfaces, were also an untested legal area, so it wasn't clear what could and couldn't be patented and hold up in the court of law. In 1989, following a lawsuit they filed against Apple, Xerox went to the extent of going to trial, alleging that its user interface had been stolen. However, this suit was dismissed on procedural grounds because a 3-year statute of limitations had been passed. And that's the story of how Xerox invented, then lost the future. Thank you for watching.